friends, how are you doing today? Welcome to MarkTalk. I am your host, Mark Levy, and I am unbelievably excited to be here with you today on this Monday or whenever you watch it. If you're watching this for the first time, welcome. If you're watching live, you can use the chat. You can press like, subscribe, all that stuff. This is part of my series where I am talking games with game creators, game hosts, sometimes game players, sometimes game production. I'm talking specific games, giving a whole episode of Mark Talk to these games. Today, I'm really excited. It's a game that I've been charting the progress of because I love the creator, and I find this fascinating. It's a game that scares the shit out of me. That's real. But I love everyone that's played this game, and I might have the courage to play it eventually. I'm going to bring in our host and creator of Power and Safety, Nadim Adatia, and the first winner and the production member of Production Safety, Andy Vogl. How are you guys?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Nice little way to take a break from this lovely kind of apocalypse going on outside.
Oh, is it bad by you? I know that
it's not by me, but I feel like somebody watching this somewhere was like, "Oh my God, there's white stuff!" And so, I sympathize.
Is it snowing?
It's like no, here it's not. I
love how me and Andy just staring at our windows because me and Andy live near each other enough. Like the team does not live near us.
I'm just like, it's cold, but it's not snowing.
Rule number one of Power and Safety, Mark, is you need to be able to lie directly to someone's face in front of everybody. So, believe me when I say it is snowing like crazy here.
Sure, I believe you. I know that you're in the Yonkers area, and I'm in Brooklyn, and I believe that they're getting 20 feet of snow right now. While there's no snow outside, maybe some clouds, but that's about it. But as Luke has said, he is getting 12 inches in the Indiana area. Welcome, guys. I'm so happy to have you out here, though. Let's get started. Let's talk about what Power and Safety is.
Yeah. So this little idea came to me at work. So I work as a recruiter for a staffing agency. So I was just like on my computer, just like drifting off into space as I do. And I just came up with the concept of like, in games, like we're given powers and we're given safety. And sometimes people don't want to get blood on their hands. Sometimes people do want that power. And just other people just want to be immune. So the concept was, let's test the dynamics between it, but putting them into a situation where you have to vocally say whether you want power, whether you want safety, or whether you just want to just chill and relax. So that's kind of where the concept came up. And because of, testing out that power and safety dynamic, what better name than Power and Safety? So it just came to me. I talked about the concept a little bit with graphic designer of Power and Safety, Daniel Clark, and eventual winner of season 2 of right? Power. Yeah. Yep, season 2 winner of Power and Safety, Daniel Clark as well. And then I got, Robbie Hornick into it as well to help me out with that first season and second season. And then, had Andy play the first season. And then after that, we talked, and then he wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, I could use the help. And so, that's where the concept came on. This is here we are now, I guess.
Yeah. Like, it's so scary to me, the idea of being in a room and being like, I'm going to take you out right now. It's like, that's what has to happen in the game of Power and Safety. Like, there's no place to hide in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, I know that kind of situations where Andy thrives.
What, me, little me? No, I'm not loud. I will say, Mark, like, I agree with you that in certain contexts, it definitely does benefit you to be a very loud person, a loud presence in the game. But I would argue also that this game has now been played 4 times, and it's been won by 4 people with 4 very different gameplay styles. So, I won it first, and many would argue I won it best. But you don't necessarily have to play the way that I play to win this game.
And kind of going off that too, like as someone who obviously has been around for all 4 seasons, kind of seeing the gameplay here on out and like, also interacting with some of these players after the fact, and like reflecting on it too, you know, because each game is a new game, and like as a creator as myself, I want to also like evolve the game as much as I can, whether it be small things or big things, whatnot. I've realized like exactly to that point, like you don't have to be the loudest player. I think you can be a social player in that one room settings. It's just sort of adapting to the fact that you can't hide and that everyone sort of sees your game for what it is throughout the entire time. We've had, you know, something that comes to mind in season 1, at least, like Andy was definitely, to me, in my opinion, the most vocal player of that season. Then you had someone like Pranay, who was sort of in the middle. He was vocal at times, but was also very quiet. And then you had Janine, who was maybe a lot more quiet, but very sociable. And people just drew to her. And like 3 of those were represented in that final 3. And all 3 would have been completely deserving of a win in my book. So yeah, it's super fascinating to see different types of gameplay make it further, because sometimes the more vocal players do have a more benefit, but that's not always the case, I would say.
Yeah, totally. Like like when I was watching, because I was able to watch a lot of the most recent season, your redemption season.
Yeah.
Where a good friend of the show, Marquise, won. Well, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't feeling good for half the game and was lying down for half the game.
He was, yeah.
And like to win a game like that's real power right there. Looks like Andy's got a thought happening.
I do, because I obviously was watching that game very closely too. So just for the behind the scenes, what my role is during the game, I'm your voting chart kind of guy. I'm the one who's like getting all the information. And a lot of the time what happens during the games is people send me confessionals when they vote. So Marquise didn't, but I'm always very like kind of in tune with, number one, what are people saying? And then I'm very quickly able to translate into how they're voting. And you can tell really who's got agency within the game. And Marquise, as much as people might have thought early on that he was being a little bit quieter than he usually is, was very actively influencing the outcome of that game from jump. If you were to look at Marquise's voting history, the game was going his way. So don't be fooled. You don't have to necessarily outwardly speak if you can speak through strategy.
Of course.
You always want that combination.
And yeah. And especially with a game like this, where it is a one-room format, you can't really jump into breakout rooms. It's kind of hard sometimes during certain rounds to like actually get a word out, because obviously we have to keep the game going to a degree. So that's why like I've incorporated sort of a DMing period. It's a pretty fair amount of time to DM people over Zoom, and I keep it more specifically towards Zoom because I think you have to kind of remember like those connections that you made, and sometimes you can't just be like, oh, well, I remember you said this a while ago, but you know, who knows, right? Because as the game progresses, that DM list is going to go away, or you'll have to scroll back and like really look for it. But also gives the players like that opportunity for more like one-on-one communication with players in order to build those initial relationships first, because there's not really a lot to go off with the first boot. So it just really establishes some core relationships before the game actually commences. And like more specifically with this previous season, I definitely saw some that really played well in how that sort of group of people proceeded forward into the game.
What I like about the DMing, Nadim, the way you do it is, you give them that opportunity to speak and create those alliances, but then you cut it off. So, okay, you can make your alliances. I know in my game, I made kind of four sort of pairs that I put myself in. 2 of those pairs were with the first 2 boots.
Oh, wow.
So you then end up in a situation where, okay, so my DMing fell off. How do I kind of right the ship and reposition myself in the game? And at that point, then you do need to kind of put yourself out there and be a little bit more of a presence, and give the people who maybe you weren't talking to as closely with a reason to want to keep you around. You always have to kind of, in the back of your mind, like you have your allies, but you need to always be thinking about, how am I going to get the people that I'm not aligned with to also want to keep me?
Absolutely. And just quickly to add on to that, and that's where the whole like format of the game comes into. I don't know if you're going to get into that a little bit more,
Well,
Mark.
yeah. I mean, you know it better than me, so
Right. So I just wanted to like kind of add on to that and say like, yeah, there's definitely more ways in a game, like especially in a one room format. Like I've played my fair share of one room formats before, and for me, like there's only a few ways to really stress to people how loyal or how much you're willing to work with them. And I think the way that like at least my game works out where you have, if you win a competition and become that power player or safety player, you have to give somebody else that other one, whether it be that power player or that safety player. So it's like a way of also building those relationships in the game if you're able to kind of quickly use that time wisely to explain to that person, hey, I'm giving you this because of X, Y, and Z. And so that's another way to build those relationships. And those tend to kind of help you if you're able to be in that position or be able to receive those powers from people, because it shows that you're really forming those good social connections with people and having people in the game that want to keep you around.
Yeah, explain to me what would be, explain to the audience like what would like a normal round of power and safety be? Like the beginning game, of course, you have the DMs, and then
so it's funny because the game has evolved a lot. In my opinion, I actually was rewatching the first 3 seasons because those were a little bit like, out of my mind a little bit, because the most recent one is obviously very fresh in my mind still, and that's kind of going to be the format of how the game is going to go. So before, just very briefly, there's always going to be that DM period at the very beginning. Quite a bit of time, I would say, because we do like a little twist where the players get to decide on the first power player just based on very small, really unbiased questions. Just kind of like who you're feeling. And that also kind of shows that person, hey, I might have people who are on my side to begin with. And it's just about utilizing that, right? And then we go into like a competition for the safety player, which would be round 2. And then that person would win it. That person would have to choose a power player. Then an advantage or whatever will be played. Then it would, at first, we would allow there to be discussion for that decision of that safety player. But now we're only allowing 30 seconds for that person to decide. Just to make things
that's really fast in the game.
Yeah, it's really fast, but it also, just based on like at least my opinion about how it went for the last season, I think it worked out really well. So that's something that's going to continue.
We cut like 2 hours off the time.
Yeah, we cut a lot of time after that too. And also, that power player is going to make their 3 nominees. We'll give some time for discussion before the voting. And then what I did previously was, after that discussion for the nominations, I would just give the 3 nominees the time to speak, kind of like a final plea. Right. But now what I'm doing is there's going to be the discussion before nominations and then a smaller discussion after, but no final pleas. Because with 3 nominees, sometimes the same people keep going up, and they might pitch the same thing over and over and over again. So it kind of like limits that, but also gives everyone an opportunity to really have a say in who they want to see go, rather than just listen to what the nominees have to say, essentially. So that's kind of the format of the game. When it gets to Final Four, there's something that we call like an overpower player, which is basically just you're the only one has like some sort of power or some sort of safety going into that final 3, and there's no more safety player and whatnot, just based on the format.
Yeah, and then Nadim does a pretty good job of throwing in a couple of like twists, a couple of little dilemmas. We added something new this past season for the final 5, which didn't quite play out to its full potential yet, but it will. Mm-hmm. It will one day. Very, very nice. It's a great format because it's straightforward in terms of like, oh, someone gets the power to nominate, and then we vote someone out, and there's a little bit of discussion to figure things out. But then what makes Power and Safety unique, I think, is that the blocked votes element. That every round, certain votes are getting blocked, and that's the role of the safety player.
Yeah.
So in each round, whoever is elected or who wins the safety comp, whatever happens to get them in that position, is blocking a certain number of votes. So you might be doing all this strategizing, but the safety player doesn't agree with you. So, okay, you get your group together to vote person A out, but now you and your allies, your votes won't count. So
Exactly.
There's a lot of kind of like intricate maneuverability that's required in order to actually get your plan across.
I love that. Like, because especially like as I was telling you before the game, like you're one of those people, like I love that this is your game, because they like what I love about you is like, and also Andy, is that your players are not afraid to speak your mind or the truth or the truth that you're experiencing at that moment. To either further your game or try to further your game or try to help your allies. And that's one of the things I really love about playing with y'all whenever I get a chance to play with you guys. But like, and it makes total sense that you would make a game like this where there is not many places to hide, and after a certain point there is no place to hide, and like you just have to talk, like, and you, I love it. I love that. It's so cool to me.
And I know, like with one room formats, like myself, I'm a very introverted person as is too. So like one room formats in general, which is pretty ironic to say, is also scary for me to be a part of. It's fun to watch it from the other side, but being in it, it can be a little difficult. But I think of this game as like a way for players to really test out some new strategies, some new ways of maneuvering through games, especially when, again, you can't move around. And I hope it's for players, because I know a lot of them are more social players that do enjoy breakout rooms, from just conversations with players after the fact. But I think also this is like something that kind of brings people out of their comfort zone a little bit, nothing too forced, but it also like really shows like, wow, this person plays like, whoa, like it shows like a different light to that person's playing style and just like that person in general. That I love to see as well, because something about like the redemption season is that we wanted to bring back people that had a lot more to prove, I would say. So like, for example, like Leandro, for example, like we saw that he was pretty vocal. We saw that he had a lot to prove, even though he was the first boot. So we definitely wanted to have some representative of that to come back and really show themselves, and he did pretty well as well. And I know, like, for another example is AJ Norris. So he was a lot more quieter during his first game, and I think we all have seen like his past games before, in terms of like sequester and whatnot. And we know he's pretty out there. He's pretty like fun. He has a good energy to him.
Yeah.
But he played really quiet last time, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to really redeem himself in that aspect. And I think, like, especially for players who are coming back and playing, I think they sort of have more like comfort in playing the game again because they're used to it, and also they know that there's a lot more pros than there is cons if you are, kind of saying your piece, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, your game, people have to take ownership of their games.
Exactly. Yeah.
Take ownership and seize opportunity. I think that's probably like the biggest thing in the one-run format. I think because we've seen this game played at like different levels. Like, not every single person who's played this game has mastered it, obviously.
Yeah.
But we've
only Andy.
Oh, I mean, yes. I'm never going to refer to myself. I'm the best player of all these games, clearly. But what happens from time to time is you see some people who kind of fall into the trap of playing your like stereotypical, I guess, safe game where it's like, oh, look at me, I'm loyal, I'm here for you, I'm working with you, I want to work with you in this game, which is really cool in like a breakout room format where you can be with a small subset of the players and preach loyalty. Daniel thinks that he played better than me. It's adorable. Yes, he got more jury votes. Okay, but I am better. Anyway.
Sorry.
So when I lost my train of thought. Daniel. Okay.
Talk about loyalty.
That kind of mentality that you can bring to a game where you're in different rooms and you're not actually speaking in front of everybody. You can kind of play a little bit more of a duplicitous, oh, I'm loyal to you game. The problem in this one room format, and it's come up from multiple people, is, okay, I'm saying that I'm loyal to the person who's in power. Next round, someone else is in power, and I'm saying I'm loyal to them. Round 3, a new person's in power. I'm saying I'm loyal to them.
Right, then who are you actually loyal to?
After a hot minute, people are going to realize that if they don't, it's their fault. But people should realize, like, that you're a fair weather ally, and like that doesn't serve you in a game like this. What I found.
What happens though if those 3 different people are the 3 people you DM'd? Like, let's say for example, like Nadim and Andy, you guys both got power, and I was like, hey, I got you guys, and you're like, cool, I got you in the DM period. Then, like, you're not really lying, but it just might look like you're lying.
Oh, sure, and that could happen, but eventually you're going to hit a point in the game where you can't be loyal to everybody that you say you're loyal to.
Of course, yeah.
And sometimes, and I notice this in all games, that people often struggle to realize that, like, you're voting people out, you're eliminating people from games. So, like, preaching undying loyalty to all of them.
Well, okay.
So far,
we all understand, like, the idea of
approach every single person from that position of loyalty.
I mean, like, I don't play games for second place.
Oh, never.
Like, that's like, I'm not saying you guys do either, but it's the thing of like, I'm loyal to you until I have to not be loyal to you, which is what bit me in the ass in Penthouse. I came in 3rd and had a very bitter jury, but that's okay. But like, yeah, no, I fully get it. Like, loyalty is important, but also when is loyalty important?
I think if I had to describe like really navigating the game and like building again those connections and everything, and just like a motto for power and safety in a sense is like proof in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like putting action into those words, because that's the only way you're going to show somebody that you are quote unquote loyal to them, right? Because I think we all experience that in games. It's like, okay, are you loyal to me? Like, how are you going to show me that, right? And I think this game, you have to show that in order for people to not only keep you in the game, but also go forward with you in this game too. Because, I mean, you know, I think something different about this game is that there is a final 3 as opposed to to a lot of the as opposed to a lot of the games, right? So like it does give you an opportunity to get to the end, but you're gonna have to work your way to the end.
Yeah.
And that's what I want players to do, is work to get there.
Yeah. What I found when I played, and look, I mean, this is generally how I play games anyway because of how my personality comes across to half the audience. But what I found when I played was, rather than having to worry about proving my loyalty to every single person that I was loyal to, I knew whose back I had and who I wanted to work with long-term in the game. And anybody who didn't fit into that group, I very clearly outlined as an enemy. Now, this is something that it worked for me because, number one, I had more allies than enemies, and I also was lucky / skilled in like the late game competitions, so it really kind of that definitely helped. It served me very well in the game.
Yes, it did.
But, and I will say this till the cows come home. Until I started winning a whole bunch, I was in a good spot anyway because people were so clear, not just who I was with, but who I was against. I had like, there are two specific people. I had one person pre-jury who I was like hardcore against, one of our colleagues. And then I had my buddy Alex, who was kind of a through line for me. And in the early jury phase, he was like my nemesis because he called me out and he wanted me gone. And
so I'm watching Survivor Triple H right now, rewatching it because of my friend Naomi's podcast. And basically, Andy, what you're describing is that your season of Power and Safety is you were Ben Driebergen.
No, I'm not saying
in a bad way. I'm actually not saying in a bad way. I think
there's a key difference between my game and Ben's game. And that difference would be that as the game went on, Ben had nobody who wanted him in the game and nobody who was willing to keep him around. I had clear people who were against me who would get eliminated one by one. But it's also important in a game like this. You as much as I love that I was winning competitions when I played, I had never seen the comps before. I had no idea what was coming in the game. So I was still trying to keep myself set up so that if I were to lose, I had my people. And I did have people who were legitimately loyal to me throughout the game. Janine and I worked very closely the entire time that I played. And if you've played a game with Janine, you know that she is loyal.
If
she was not turning on me no matter how many comps I won, no matter how big of a threat I became. And that became abundantly clear to me pretty early on. And so we were able to play that angle all the way through the game. So not Ben. Not Ben, because I had an ally.
Okay, that's fair.
I had a peaceful ally. I also had
as a person that's rewatching a season and is tracking a season, he didn't have allies completely until the merge, and then it got very ugly, and then people were like, I guess I have to work with him.
Yeah, but they also never actually did. I think Devin cast the one vote at Final Five to save his own ass, but it wasn't like...
Whatever. It doesn't matter. I was giving you a compliment, and you were like, God, no. So
I do not consent to that narrative.
Fine. Whatever. I think he's a good player, and that's my truth. We're not talking about Ben Trebergen, unless he played Power and Safety, and he has. So
no.
But Ben would be fucked in this game. So what are your, this game, like whenever I get a chance to pop my head into the seasons, because I have watched some of the other seasons, there's always like firecracker moments. Like, what are your favorite like firecracker moments of this game?
Oh man, I'm gonna let Andy start first, and then I'll go second because I have a few, but in case he takes mine, I'm okay with adapting and finding another one. But Andy, you go first.
So my absolute favorite moment. Does this count? It's one that happened after the camera stopped rolling.
Behind
you. Are you okay if I share this?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
So season 4, our redemption season. Just in case people aren't clear how like intensive a game it was.
It was intense.
It was intense.
I started watching like 5 minutes before what happened with Marcus, like when
so like that, and that was round 1, right? The whole thing with Marcus was round 1 because Marcus withdrew in round 2.
Right.
That was the beginning of the game, and then it continues on, and you continue to have people who emerged as Katie. You get people who emerged as as power players, as quote unquote quiet players. Now, I don't really think that much of that cast was quiet. I think that everybody actively was playing their most.
That is a very actively social cast.
Okay. So the game happens. Everybody gets voted out. Marquise wins, vote of 4 to 3 to 1. After we stop, after Nadim cuts the feed, one of our jurors, who I will allow to bring themselves forward if they'd like, one of our jurors decided that they were not content with the people who comprised our final 3. They felt that the final 3 played safer games or played less vocal games than they. And it became, I wish we would have started rolling again, because they and Marquise went at it. Because Marquise, who had just won the game, clearly outplayed everybody, made it so that he was never voted out, and then had a compelling enough case to get the majority of jury votes. Like, that's the rules. He won the game. This person was challenging Marquise on his win so aggressively. Like, I wish it was like an episode of Real Housewives. We've been talking about Real Housewives like through the game, like in between rounds. Like, I could have sworn that Marquise was about to rip off his prosthetic leg and throw it through the internet at this person.
Oh no!
And like, it was amazing to watch.
I'm gonna look at the cast now, trying to figure out who it was.
Like, I'm telling you, season 4, I will say it is my favorite season thus far. It's like, again, a culmination of all 3 seasons, which I love and like have a spot in my heart for. But these players were very, very, very passionate throughout the game. So this whole thing too wasn't even like personal digs. It was all game related. And that's why it was so enjoyable to watch, because it was just a whole discussion about like, I don't respect this type of game or this type of thing. But like, it was never personal, like a dig at Marquise as a person. Right. It was like, Marquise, I think you played a very quiet game, and Marquise is passionate, right? Marquise is passionate and he you know, he laid out his points, that person laid out their points, back and forth. But you know, it just was like a whole like ribbon on the whole season. Like, that's why at times during this game, like I got so vested into this season more specifically, and I was just like, wow, like I need to take a breather because of how much is going on. So that being like the after show of it, that's never happened in the previous seasons either. Like I've cut the feeds and then like have chatted with them, like the players, for a little bit after, but it never got to that point. And for that, I was like, wow, it was insane. Yeah, that was a good moment.
Wow.
I think there's like quite a bit of moments. I think the moment that made me laugh, but also was very entertaining from like a game perspective, is in season 4, Giovanni put up 3 targets. He put up Alex, Pernoy, and Ganjo. And so Marquise asked Ganjo, hey Ganjo, like, who do you want out? Keep in mind, Pranay and Alex have vocally stated that they are going after Giovanni at this point, right? Prior to this. And Giovanni just out of the blue was like, I kind of want to go for Ganjo. And that moment just made me laugh because it like shifted everyone's minds, like, oh, like why? Like why? Like players like that are just entertaining, and also like that's why also I brought Giovanni back too, because he is a very entertaining player and he made it far in his last season too, playing the same way. And for me, that's very intriguing to me, and I wanted to see if he'd be able to replicate that again. So moments like that definitely get me. I think just like a lot of moments in season 4 definitely were just like the big firecracker moments. I think, you know, even just people just calling out people for being shady, people calling people out for kind of being under the radar and quiet, and then just people like really embracing the game. I think moments like that where people just are like, yeah, like we're in a 1-room format, there's nowhere to hide, like I want to be messy, I want to make moves, like F everything, you know? And those are the moments that I, as a creator, want to see, because not only is it shows like, wow, these people are really embracing the game and the format and like have a lot of respect for it, but also it's like they're really showing to everyone there, like, I'm just being me and I'm going to play the game that I want to play, right? They're not hiding. They don't have to, you know, fact check anything. They're like, okay, you want to see how I play? Here it is. And so like those, I think like that's a very general answer, but there's plenty of moments in all 3 seasons, I think, that had that. And so I just think moments like that are my favorite. So.
Yeah.
For any of the Benedini, he said in all 3 seasons, there might 3 of the seasons might have had more moments than one of the other seasons.
Like as a culmination of things, right? Because every season's so different to me, and I think it has a lot to do with the cast and just like what I throw into the game, because I try to make it similar, but also like challenging, because like in case they watch a previous season or something, I want to throw something else in. And
I'm actually doing that right now with the adventure game, because we had 3 seasons and it's been an incredibly similar format for the first few seasons, and I'm changing things up a little this season because there's still so much they can't prepare for because of the actual choose your own adventure nature of the game. So
I think
it's not a good moment.
Yeah, I think like, again, like I think we talked about this before we went live, but as like a creator, you have to be open to changing things. And I think you have to be receptive to any feedback and whatnot. Like a lot of the formats are me opening up to not only my production team, so like Andy and Daniel, but also to like hearing feedback from players, because like I do want to make a point to touch base with at least all of them after the game to see how their experiences were and how I as a host can do better, or how like what they would like to see different in the game, because I do value opinions of the people that play these games, right? And
Yeah.
bring in more people that do want to play my game and other games, right? So, I mean, I'm a very like versatile host, I would say. Like some things, even in game, I have to switch up on the spot too. More on me forgetting, but also, yeah. So like, I think just you have to be that sort of way as a host, and so like, I'm excited to see like when season 5 does come out. I'm excited to see like how this iteration, transfers over and see how the players adapt to like what is going to continue to be like an ever changing game.
Yeah.
So,
Andy, say thought of another thing they wanted to bring up there, or?
Well, I mean, I love Nadim as a host. Nadim's one of my good friends. He's one of my first ever. I don't know if we were out. We weren't allies in the first game we played because
No.
Nadim and
He was like, no, we were not.
no,
well, someone thought we were. So
yeah, someone thought we were.
Rumor had it, Nadim and I had a final 2, and then I tried to vote him out immediately because someone said that. So we've been playing together. Like my very first sequester game, Nadim was there, and like
almost
stopped
10 months ago. Yeah, 10 months ago.
Several months ago. It's been a minute. And ever since then, we've kind of been in conversation about gameplay style. Obviously, we were slated to be partners in Sequester Shadows way back in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember that day? Remember Shadows?
Yeah.
That
I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that pairing. Yes.
Yeah. We were.
Well, one of us should have played second instead of first, but
that's all different podcast.
Yeah.
But at that moment, Nadim and I really kind of started picking each other's brains about strategy.
I'll say this, Andy. You brought a lot of entertainment though in that first half, and you lasted a lot longer than I think you thought you were going to last too.
Yes, thank you, Mallory's internet. But
that's fair too.
One of the things I realized, at least in that moment, and we've kind of carried it over into Power and Safety, is that Nadim is a very affable, pleasant, nice persona that makes a wonderful host that like warms the hearts of the audience and everyone's excited to see watch. Like everyone's excited to watch him. They love to see Dad at the beginning of the game. What I bring to this and what I would love Nadim to take from me, what I'd like him to glean off of me is a little bit of that Schadenfreude. Right, we need him to want the players to feel a little bit more pain in the game because, like you said, those firecracker moments are amazing. And what I've kind of been working with him on lately is trying to figure out more and more opportunities to make this game harder and harder for the people to get by just being nice.
Because you're making me want to try this game more and more as this conversation goes on, and that's saying a lot.
As you should, as everyone should.
I'll also bring up like my friend Esme, who just won banishment last night in unanimously. Like I think they'd be awesome for this game too. But like it's that thing of like I would like to see like as a person that normally has a way to play that has found out a way to play for myself. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to do it in this.
Things that I find very beneficial to you in the game is if you're able to put intense pressure on your adversaries. When we were thinking of like firecracker moments, I think of so a little bit of context. In the pre-jury, I was a power player early on in the game and had eliminated Khalid. This is good Khalid, Caleb, the one we like.
There was good people. It's just one of those goes by good Khalid. Yeah.
So he comes back in the game. He gets voted back in, which sucked for me. Hated that. But you live, you learn, you adapt, you try to play off whatever happens. He gets back in. He gets a little bit of control in the game, so I try to make a deal with him. He doesn't bite. The last round before jury, Alex, who would become my new public enemy #1 very soon after, is like, all right, Andy's had too much control in this game. He's got to go. I don't want him on jury. I'm putting up Andy. I'm going to put him up with Marquise because they're working together and everyone likes Marquise. And I'm going to put up Khalid because no one's going to vote out Khalid. And so it was made abundantly clear that I was the target in that round. But what I did, and I think I did this against Nadim's wishes, was during the time that we had to deliberate and this was back when we did have a final plea as nominees. I, rather than talking about why I should be saved, I spent the entire time talking about why Khalid should be eliminated. And I talked about how I tried to make a deal with him and he wouldn't work with me. And that means that he won't work with you. If you don't think you're in his plans, he's got to go. He's awful. Like, get rid of him. And then he got his chance to speak. His chance. Because while he spoke, I very intentionally interrupted him every 5 seconds.
Oh my God.
So I basically, he would start giving his speech because this is, again, Nadim wants to give people an opportunity to own their game. My game was, okay, I'm going to present you my strategy. And if you have a strategy that's counter to mine, I am not going to afford you that opportunity. And it was pre-jury, so I could do it if it worked.
It would suck if the game's over for you anyway. So,
well, the most beautiful thing that happened immediately after is Marquise accidentally cast his vote in the public chat and voted for Khalid. And in that moment, I was like, oh, crap, this worked. So I basically spent the round screaming over him. It ended up being a 4-3-0 vote after the votes got blocked. And now we never saw a voting chart for this game, but I was told that I did not receive a single vote that counted in that round. So
that's luck. I mean, that's luck and gameplay there, you know?
Those moments are the moments that we want to create. You want that gameplay conflict. You want aggression in the context of strategy between players.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick
we have to create that is what we look for.
And just a quick footnote too. Those block votes change a lot of who is eliminated at what point in time too. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it, because not only is it sucks to get eliminated especially in this format, if you are one of the nominees that don't get an opportunity to say as much. However, if you find a group of people that you can at least show that you're loyal to, especially that safety player, things can go a lot differently for you. And you can have multiple lives in this game in order to, eventually get power and or get safety again, and then could make it to the end based on that, right? We had Alec in season 2. He was up almost a lot of the time. I think he was probably up for the majority of the game, and he ended up getting to that final 3, and he never received a power. I mean, he had a power, but Daniel used an advantage to take away that power. So he never really had power the whole game and still made it to the end, right? And I think a lot of that is blocked votes and what you sort of do in those moments when you are up on the block. But prior to going on the block, that really affect, okay, this is where I need to go, and, how am I going to get to the end?
Yeah.
You have to be very intentional with your action.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, or ugly. You need to, whatever you do, you got to do it on purpose.
So have you started casting the next season yet?
So the next season applications are going out at the end of this month. So they'll be out for about, I would say, 2 weeks before we come up with the cast. But I think it's funny. The only thing I care about in terms of casting is that people just come in to have fun. I'm sure all hosts are going to say this, but come in to have fun and just be passionate. Don't worry about what people are going to say. Don't worry about how us as a host or as production or how other players are going to react to it, because at the end of the day, I just want people to come in knowing that, hey, this is a game, and afterwards we can all be friends.
Yeah.
So that's all they care about in terms of casting. Obviously, this is going to be an all new player season. We're going to keep it with 16 people, kind of keep it the same format maybe as last season. Maybe you never know, right? I like to spice things up, and also I like to be very.
You might want to do future players.
Sorry, what was that?
Future players might want to do their homework, because there have been some kind of through lines every season. There are certain challenges that we kind of use.
Yeah, and the challenge
what you're going to be playing for.
And the one thing too that I guess my role, on addition to being host, is also the creator of the challenges, and then also I'm in charge of the streaming too. So I stream, make sure the stream is going on, try to interact with the chat while also hosting. And making these challenges and going through these challenges and twists too, and also giving out advantages at the same time. So it's the operation of it is really a 2-man show. for me, it has to be a 2-man show for it to
That's exactly why the adventure game is purposely super simple.
Yeah. So like it needs to be a 2-man show for sure. I kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, like so those applications are going out for season 5 at the end of the month. And yeah, if you're like interested in playing, to anybody who's watching, apply, and if you don't get in, honestly, we've had a lot of people apply multiple times and haven't gotten in yet, but like that opportunity's coming. So don't like be down about it. Like I really want people who have applied, because that first season we got around 50 applications, which was crazy to me on a Wednesday night at like 7:00 p.m. That was
ended at 4 a.m.
And that season went a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, and it went late.
It'd be a 4-hour game 8 hours later.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to see like more of those people come back and apply too, because I do my best to not try and reach out to people, because I want people to genuinely want to play the game, because that just shows me that you're going to care about playing the game. But at times, like I do want to maybe reach out to people who haven't heard of Power and Safety still, but also might not be following it or not really know what it's about, and kind of just let them know what it's about. And if they're open to applying, they can apply, right? So yeah, stay tuned for those applications at the end of the month, and the season should be sometime in middle of March, I would say. Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to bring up before we start wrapping things up?
No, I mean, I guess you're going to probably hear this a lot, Mark, but thank you so much for creating this space for us hosts and production and whatnot to talk about these games and really show people what they're about. Because I think it's so hard to really tell, because from watching it, or you might not know too much about who's behind it and whatnot. So it like really creates an opportunity for people to get to know you and whatnot. And yeah, and again, to everyone who's watching or will be watching this, like kind of, put yourself out there, apply to all these games. There's so many games out there that, all these hosts want to have you be a part of. I've had the opportunity to play a few of the games by some of these hosts, and I've enjoyed my experiences. And I know in the future, I want to kind of get myself in there a little bit with other games too. So if you're interested in playing a game and want to kind of test out new ways to play games, like all these games are great first options, I would say.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a banner right now for that. Sequester Stats has all the games on Twitter, and it's updated very frequently. But yeah, like my big thing when I decided to do this was like I want to do something like, because I feel like it's a good idea to be able to talk about this stuff, or else it stays small and like no one can actually grow or expand their pool of people that submit. And they're like, you and me have both been very fortunate with our pools, like where our pools have been enough for what we need. And
shout out to all the players that have also played Power and Safety in the past and have come back to play. Like honestly, and Mark probably can speak for this, like our game wouldn't be anything without you playing the game. So like I just want to shout out to them too.
Yeah. It's important for me to, as a creator, to help other creators. Like that's just where I am as a human being. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And if people want to follow Power and Safety, it's really easy. On Power and Safety on Twitter. A pretty active Twitter account for a game too, also.
I try to be as active as possible on it. By either retweeting other applications for other games that are going out, or try to interact with people. It's always open for any questions about the game too. So like I'm usually the one on it. So
yeah. And people can follow Nadim at Nadim Adatia and follow Andy at Andy Vogl. Both very easy.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
It's like so much insanely harder, but like I'm so happy to have you guys on the show, because when Nadim reached out to me, I was like, yes, please, because like you're someone I always love to talk to. Like I remember when we first started like knowing who each other was in the playing periods of that game as a question that I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like that's the only game sequence I actually don't ever want to talk about. But like I was like, oh no, Nadim is as cool as I want him to be. Like, because I remember like when I saw like the Canada game, I'm like, oh, Nadim is ready to cut everyone's throats, and I love it. But oh my god, I do not want to be against him in the game.
Very simple.
Huh?
I've raised him well.
Andy, you and I have never fought in a game, and I'm very proud of that. So
No, that's true. The one time we did anything in a game together, it was not your fault that I lost.
it was not. No, we were very well
No,
aligned.
we were together. I didn't realize
We were very well
we
aligned.
were together.
We were very well aligned in injury. And well, I'm supposed to say that.
Well, no, I was telling people to be against you. I didn't realize you were with me.
Okay. Well,
My bad.
and I'm gonna plug some stuff coming up on this channel. Tomorrow we're back with Mark Meets World, season 2, episode 6 with Josh Benjamin. It's the werewolf episode, so we're talking about puberty. That's a
yogurt.
Yeah, we recorded earlier today, and I'm really excited about how it came out. It was a really fun episode to record. On Wednesday night, I believe 8 p.m., I'll be with the rest of my Pyramid Scheme production team, where Ian and us are going to be talking about the history of the game, what to expect with Winners at War, which there will be a live commentary on that Saturday night at 8 p.m. on this channel, and maybe a multi-viewer to make it so you can see every room, because there's going to be there's a lot happening in that game. But it's power. That's Pyramid Scheme. That's what Pyramid Scheme's all about. I always like to ask y'all, on Friday, I'm doing my Brant Seal. Do you want to be players on it this season?
Sure, I would love to. I've never done a Brant Seal with me in it, so I would love to.
Wow. Okay.
What are you basing it around this week?
I haven't decided yet. What do you want to do it as?
Oh no, I did the one where you did Cagayan already.
I could do it every season, but Winners at War.
Okay. Who? Surprise me. Just make me a really good player. I'll do it if I win.
Wow, that's not bad at all. And also, I want to promote, because it's a week out. I'll be with Rob James from Castaway next Monday, talking about all that stuff with that insane fun game.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you guys so much for being here today.
Yeah.
I want to thank the viewers. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks.